Welcome to Julie Whitney Scott Presents. And of course, I'm Julie. And I am so excited to bring to you one of the theater people right here in Central Ohio. Some of you have probably seen some of his work. He may have worked with some of you in the theater world. Some of you may have been audience members that sat out and watched his performance. Or maybe you're a part of his theater company. I would like to introduce to you and then bring back to some who already know him, Mr. Mark Phillips. Now, those of you that know me know that I will mess up a name in a hot minute. So in order to not do that with this one, I have chosen to let him say his whole name himself. Mark, why don't you introduce everybody to yourself so that they can get the correct pronunciation of your name?
Hi, everybody. I am Mark Phillips Schwamberger.
We took a little lesson before that, guys, and I just still wasn't confident enough to do it. So I wanted to do this the right way. Mark, I want to start off with, as I said earlier, people may know you based on your performances and you, the Mark now, and what you've been doing with your company, the Evolution Theater Company. You're the artistic director there, but you're also the founder there. But I don't want to get into all that right now because those are things that people know about you.
Okay.
Some of them right now, and that some of the stuff that we're going to talk to other people about. And on this show, Let's Talk Theater, I want to do more than us. We just talking about what we're doing, because we can really easily get that done, through social media and our websites and all that. It's really easy for people to find that out. And then, of course, we're going to let people know what you're doing. Don't worry about that, because Let's Talk Theater also means, what are we doing? Okay. But I want people to get to know a little bit more about you, Mark, personally, because you've got over 30 years of performing in theaters all the way across from the East to the Midwest. And then you're also a playwright. So which is dear to my heart as the playwright, because there's nothing for an actor to act on if he doesn't have a play.
True. That's true.
Yeah. So let's start off with you talking about what made you decide that you wanted to be an actor first place, or involved in the theater. How did you start off? You may not have started off as acting, who knows? And did you have any challenges as a male wanting to be in the theater entertainment world as you were coming out? Because I feel, we have so many young men out there right now that probably, and have always wanted to be involved in the theater, but because some people, as we do, unfortunately, put labels on people who want to be in the entertainment world, not just men, but women also, that want to be in the entertainment world and entertain others and act and all that, sing and dance. So I think it's important when we're talking about theater for the young people that are coming, or even older people, who are scared, who really want to do it, but I don't know if that when we talk about, let's talk about theater, we're talking about the challenges. Sometimes it makes to make a decision that this is what I'm going to do. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, Mark?
Growing up as a little kid, I of course didn't think about being in theater. I think it hit me when I was in college, when I changed my major to theater. But the real reason is that I have always been a shy individual. I was very painfully shy when I was a kid. And when you're in theater, you can become someone else. When you're on stage, when you're doing a character, you can become someone else. And you get out of yourself. And that's how I use to be in front of people, to even talk when I was in the corporate world and things like that. I made it a script. I made it a character. I made it a play almost, because that way you don't have your self-consciousness. You can come out as this other person. And so I really use theater to, one, develop my own personality, and also to combat the fact that I was a very shy individual and I found it very difficult to ever speak in front of a crowd or anything. And if any of you have seen my curtain speeches, when I give curtain speeches at the show, you realize now that the reason I can do that is because even when I give a curtain speech and I come out as the artistic director of Evolution Theater Company, it's still almost a character that I'm portraying so that I can do it. And I actually make a script for myself so that I can get out of any embarrassment that would happen. So really, theater for me was a way to develop and to sort of blossom as a person and to be secure in who I am and to actually like who I am so that I wasn't afraid to be around people or to talk around people. And also I think that within theater, one of the main reasons you get into theater is also because I think that everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has their own story. And especially when you're doing original works and when you're developing when you're developing a character that nobody has seen before, you can make that character something special. You don't have to, I always use this example. When you see in most productions, when you see The King and I, the king is really an actor portraying Yul Brynner as the king rather than developing their own character, because that's what people want. People want to see Yul Brynner as the king of Siam. But when you do original shows, and even when you do classics, like I did last season, we did Cabaret and I played the MC in Cabaret. I made it a point now we all seen the musical Cabaret. We've all seen the movie. We've all seen Joel Grey and Alan Cummings do it. There's all over the video. I made it a point not to watch any of that because I didn't want to be Joel Grey being the MC. I didn't want to be Alan Cummings being the MC. I wanted to develop my own character as the MC. And I think it's for a creative person, for a creative outlet, theater not only got me over my shyness, but it also got me a way to be creative as I wanted to for my whole life. So that's why I decided to go into theater.
Yeah, you covered a couple of different reasons, why people use theater. And I'm a firm believer that when you, even if you don't want to be in theater, that when you take a few acting lessons or you take a risk and come out in the play, it helps you, like you said, in your corporate, it helps you in your business. It helps you in life to be able, because we can use that time to just, I don't really, I'm shy, I can't do this, but I can act like I can. All right, let's go ahead. And, let's put together and I can do this because I put myself as if I was that character.
Right. And it's also acting, like you said, you go to acting classes, you do that. It builds your self-confidence. It builds your self-confidence in the sense that, okay, I'm uncomfortable in this situation, but I can overcome that uncomfortableness.
And you know what though? But Mark, and not just acting lessons, just letting, like when you just having young children and stuff, just be in a school play.
Right.
In a church play, in your community church plays, in your community theater plays. Even if because a lot of people can't even afford, and I can't even believe acting classes came out of my mouth, but even, because usually I get them, I know why, because I teach acting sometimes. I did it with Columbus Children's Theater. I do it with Mine for God, but that's why. Okay. Anyway, but what I really wanted to say was any type of acting, whether it's in the class, in the community, in your school, it helps give you it helps you be able to speak better. It
Right.
has also helped actors overcome being stutterers.
Right.
You know, it does things like that. So that's pretty good.
And
Now,
it also, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, and I was also going to say, you bring up a good point about schools and theater in schools and for young people and things. So many people think that that's frivolous, and that, you know, it's the theater in the school, when cuts are made, it's always the drama department that's cut. But like you said, theater, being in a play, getting the discipline to remember your lines, this helps you throughout your entire life, whether you go into theater or not. It helps you be a more confident individual. And that's why I think the drama departments in the schools are very important. But of course, that's because I'm in the theater industry.
You're the founder and the executive artistic director of
Mhm.
Evolution Theater Company.
Right. Mhm.
And that's located right here in Central Ohio. What I would like for you to talk about now, well, okay, before we go to that,
Mhm.
because the title itself, Evolution, kind of goes into where I want to go. Where do you see Mark? What do you see is the theater's responsibility and the playwright, which I say especially, because the theater is based on the playwright's
Right.
works and
Mhm.
words.
Mhm.
I don't care what it is out there, musical, drama, comedy, skit, short, long,
Right.
one act, two act. It
Right.
doesn't matter. When we talk about theater, the very core of theater is first the playwright, the
Right.
writing,
Exactly.
the script, the words, the dialogue, as you mentioned earlier, Mark, the characters
Right.
of it. And what do you see? And do you see theater at this time with what's going on in our cultural world in regards to systematic racism, in regards to Black Lives Matter, in regards to the just blatant homophobics that are going on, in regards to all of the 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 hatred
Right. What
that's
I
going on in here? And well, it's a twofold question for you. What do you see as the theater in general's responsibility and role in speaking out against that? And two, should we be doing that involved? And I guess it's a threefold. How's evolution theater? How is evolution theater? And you bringing that to pass, how does that fit in?
Okay. Well, first of all, I believe that theater is a reflection of life. Theater is a reflection of what is going on in the world today. Some of it good, some of it bad. Let's face it, life itself has a mixture of good and bad mixed in. I think that theater is also with Evolution Theater Company, and the reason we named it Evolution Theater Company is because as a company, we always plan to evolve. And as a the industry, we need to evolve. Evolution Theater Company, one of our main concerns, one of our main methodology, what we try to do is education through entertainment. We try to, and we all know, I mean, if anybody knows me, Evolution Theater Company is Central Ohio's only LGBTQ plus theater company that is always concerned with presenting shows by, for, and about the community as well as our allies, because let's face it, you can't win a war without allies. And in my mind, we're still fighting the war for equal rights for everyone, whether you're lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, whatever. We're still fighting for equal rights throughout the country and throughout the world. So by having one of our main issues be education through entertainment, it's when you are educating somebody, yes, you can do seminars, you can lecture to them, you can do diversity training, you can do all that. But when you're sitting in the audience, you're watching a show about a same-sex couple. When we did Yank, for example, when you do the same-sex couple in the military, people are going, well, this is just a love story. That's all it is. It's just a love story. It doesn't matter. And there has been so many comments that I got because you're educating, but you're not lecturing people. You're not really saying, this is it. You're not like really putting it in their face. You're evolving this story with them, and you're showing that the characters on stage, whether they're gay, straight, bisexual, transgender, or whatever, their stories are the same as your stories sitting in the audience. If you're a straight couple, like there's one play about, a gay couple parenting, being parents. And when you look at it, you're going, well, if I'm a straight couple, they're the same issues. There's no difference. It's just that these two men are parenting this child. And I think with evolution, that's one of my main goals, is to show that our stories, all of our stories, are really basically the same. We want the same thing. We want happiness. We want to be accepted. We want to be loved, and we want to be happy and not being afraid to walk down the street with the person that we love, that we are married to. So that's really what I wanted to do with Evolution Theater Company. That's why when you look at a lot of the plays we do, they're about acceptance, self-acceptance, acceptance by society. And it's also not only for the education of the audience, but also sometimes for the education of the staff. For one show when we did Bear, the pop musical. And if you don't know, it's a story about a couple in an all-male school in England. But anyway, there was this one actor that after the show sent me this email and said, I'm so glad that I was in this show because I didn't like myself. I didn't like being a gay man. I was ashamed. I was hiding. But by being in this show with the message of that show, with the people involved, I am now a proud, strong gay man. Well, I thought, okay. And it was at a time when I was sort of feeling low, how the money's not coming in, the budget is worrying. And I'm going, oh, am I really doing anything that matters? Well, I got that and I went, this is why I started Evolution Theater Company. This is why I did it. And the same thing with the audience members going, thank you so much for doing this. I have a son. I now know that he can be okay. I have a daughter. I now know that he can be okay. I have a child that is going through they're re-identifying who they are. They're transitioning, and this is okay. And to me, that's what Evolution Theater Company is about. I mean, that's fulfilling our mission. So, somebody once said to me, why do you need a gay theater company? Everything is fine. We have gay marriage. We're accepted everywhere. And I said, no, you're wrong. We live in a bubble. Sometimes we live in a bubble, other places, and no, it's not okay. And we all think that we've gone so far, but if you look around today, in some ways, I think that we did go far and now we're going backwards. That we are, with everything that's happening with the racism, homophobia, the hate that is being developed and shown in this country is really, to me, very frightening. So that's why I think Evolution Theater Company still has a mission and still has a purpose.
Yes, the theater world has always had a purpose.
Right.
And, like when it first started, that's the whole premise of it, was behind being able to speak out against social injustices
Right.
that were done, and to do it in a way that, as you said, entertain people. Because let's face it, sometimes we have to put a little sugar in there uh, to sweeten things up a little bit, because people can't take it a lot. People can't sometimes can't take as bombardment of stuff, especially like when it's going on anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
and they're living it and they're dealing with it, and they see it. And so when you go to the a theater and you see something, whether it's, like I said, comedy, drama, whatever purpose is for, it's a chance for you as an audience member to release, get out, see somebody new, learn about another culture,
Right.
learn about another people, think about something. Wow, I love it when they you leave and they thinking about something,
Mm-hmm.
or like you said, actors who you act. And as a playwright, I understand exactly what you're saying, Mark, because I've written stuff and had actors start crying, or have to take a minute and go, wait a minute, I got to back up off of this a minute, you
Right.
know, or say to me, how did you know that? How did you know that was me?
Mm-hmm.
And they happen to be, like you said, put in a role of a character or something that calls them also
Right.
to look at, oh my goodness, that's me,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm feeling that way.
Mm-hmm.
And and then of course, as a director, then my job then is to say, okay, use that.
Right.
First we deal with that, let's deal with the emotions and the stuff,
Right.
that you're picking up, and how that's affecting you. But then let's use that
Right.
in the
Exactly.
character,
Right.
because that's what I do as an actor. I'm sure you
Right.
too. It's like, okay, so now I'm going to use that energy,
Right.
whether I'm going to face that energy and use it. So as a playwright,
Mm-hmm.
um, talk to us about some of the stuff that you've written. You're an award-winning playwright.
Right.
So let's talk about, or what some of those things that you had already discussed, were any of those things that you have written? So let's talk a minute about the playwriting side,
Okay.
because what, as a playwright, how are you using what all you was just saying for your words, and are you using those words too in some
Mm-hmm.
of your theater productions with evolution?
Oh yeah, and I think, well, first of all, we talked. It's no secret for anybody, so I'm not really coming out of the closet. But everybody knows that as a gay man, especially growing up, when I did, there was a lot of trials and tribulations. There was a lot of hiding. There was a lot of being afraid. There was a lot of how can I do this? How can I be who I am when people are, they're against me and everything. So I think that a lot of my plays, and especially the one that I just did, and I'll get to the later, is the Sissy Chronicles. But all of my plays that I've written have to do with self-acceptance. And I think that has to, I mean, in some way, shape, or form, they have to do. There's a lot of, I wrote one that is this ridiculous comedy about a person going back to college at an old age and talking to themselves. So, but it's still being self-acceptance, to being able to have enough courage to go back to college in your 50s to get this done. And so it's about being self-acceptance is, and you're okay. But getting to, the one I just did with Sissy Chronicles, directed by the wonderful Joe Bashar, by the way. Doing the Sissy Chronicles, I wrote it and performed it. It's a one-person show, and it's about me growing up and what I dealt with being different, being the little boy that didn't want to play sports, that didn't like sports, that didn't, that liked playing with their Barbie doll, that liked playing with this, that, you know, when I couldn't play with a Barbie doll, I got to play with a GI Joe. Well, GI Joe is just another doll. There's no difference, it's just a doll. But society says, you're a boy, you can play with GI Joe. So I put GI Joe in drag. I mean, you know, it was great fun. So there you do. But it was the whole thing about what I went through, the bullying, the ridicule that you're taking, the feeling of being less than a human being, less than a person, because you're so different that, you know, people. So it's sort of like it was to growing up in that atmosphere and always feeling like you can't be yourself until you realize that you can be yourself and you have to be strong. One thing about the play that I think is that all this bullying that I went through and everything, going through it, it's not easy. I won't say it's easy, but when you get through it, you realize that you're the strong one. The bully is really the weak one. I got through it. I am the strongest because I stood up to your bullying. That's what I want people to realize, that you are strong. You can be a strong sissy, you know, and you can be yourself and don't be afraid. Of course, you have to realize, you know, you can't, you have to have self-preservation at some point, but it's sort of like, don't be afraid of who you are. Just go out there and, you know, be who you are and be proud of who you are. And I think that, so most of my plays deal with that. And I don't want you to think that they're, oh, poor me plays. They're not. Even the Sissy Chronicles, there's a lot of humor. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of laughter, because let's face it, in everyone's life, there's joy, laughter, and pain. Everything is not miserable all the time. Everything is not happy all the time. And I think my plays are realistic in that sense, in the sense that it's life. I mean, you know, I'm just saying this is life, whether you make it a ridiculous situation, whether you put it, you know, you put it situated on the planet Mars, it's still, you can bring the real life issues into it. So that's what, you know, and you brought up just want to say, you brought up an interesting thing about theater is the play. We did this one playwrights festival a few years ago, Revolution Theater Company, and we did one of Jack Peterson's plays. God rest his soul, rest in peace, Jack Peterson. We did one of his plays, and I said, okay, Jack, what set do you want for your play? He said, I don't want any set. I said, you don't want any set? I've never had a playwright say they didn't want, or a director say they didn't want any set. He said, nope, all I want is 3 lights coming down, because it should be the play, the words, and the actors that sustain the entertainment, not the set. Now, yes, I agree, set adds a certain thing to it, but it sort of be like the set should be a complement, not the main reason for people to identify with the play. And I think that's what he was saying, that it is, in his particular play, it was the words and the actors that is really going to bring the thing to life. So I think that's.
I'm glad you brought up Jack Peterson, one of our playwrights that we lost, you know, last year. I got a chance to spend time with Jack, and a great playwright. And I understand too what he means by that, because I'm one of those type of playwrights who, depending on what it is, I don't want that much set.
I respect, you know, a good set designer, a good costume designer, and lighting designer, and all that. And of course, if you're doing a elaborate Edwardian farce, of course you have to have a set. Of course you have to have the right set. You have to have the right costumes. You have to have all that. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of things, you don't have to, you know, you don't have to have that. So I think that when you're doing a show, especially when you get the producer, the director, and the designers and all together, everyone has to sort of be on the same page to say, what are we trying to accomplish here?
Well, that's why it's called a what? Production
And that's
team.
and that's why I have production meetings. But it's sort of like, but I mean, in getting back to Jack Peterson, I'll just say that just since we brought him up, Jack, the last thing he did was directing me in Cabaret. That
Mhm.
was we finished that in September, and he passed away in
Yes.
December. And
Yes.
I got to say that I am so glad that I had that last experience with him, even though you could tell that it was quite a strain on him
Mhm.
to be directing Cabaret of all things. But
Mhm.
he was a wonderful person to work with, and it's it's rest in peace, Jack. That's all I can say.
Yes. Rest in peace, Jack. Thank you for your contributions, all the many, many years, decades
Exactly.
that he gave to the theater, not only here in Columbus and Ohio, but in other places throughout
Yes,
his career.
across the country, and
Throughout his career.
yes, he had a remarkable career. He really did.
Yeah,
So
he
yeah.
did. He did. Yeah. So thank you. I'm glad you kind of brought that up. I think I may just have to take that little piece right there and just make a little tribute to Jack. I'm serious.
That
Yeah,
would be
I'm serious because we were supposed to have been. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
yeah. I just want to congratulate you on the Sissy Chronicles. Um, and thank you so much for being, letting us all know on the other side of it as the playwright, what you were thinking about. Now I want to ask you something.
Mhm.
When I was coming up, if you used the term sissy, it was derogatory.
Right.
And I know there was a time too when we were working on the rights of people to be able to be whoever they want to be sexually,
Right. Hmm.
that people would really get offended
Hmm.
if you called them a sissy. Uh, Now, keep in mind too that when they first started talking about sissies, it didn't necessarily mean you were gay. It meant you had feminine ways,
Right.
and which didn't mean that you was gay. It just mean he's feminine. You like movies. That kind of thing. Of course, we realized later on that people were coming out of the closet.
Right. Hmm.
That because they not only had feminine ways, they had other desires.
Hmm.
Uh, so did you get any flack, Mark, about that from anybody in regards to you using the term sissy, or did you have any thoughts about it? Because I know as a playwright, I
Hmm.
have second thoughts too when I'm writing things, and I know that this is a controversial
Hmm.
word, or you know what I mean, or topic that I have to no. I know what I have to do to get past that, to be like, this is the word I'm using.
Right.
So talk to, this town. I'm just curious, did you have any thoughts about using the word sissy? Did anybody say anything to you about it at all?
I did have thoughts about using it, but I used it for the exact reasons that you just said. I used it because, yes, I'll be honest, I wanted that shock value in the very beginning because sissy has always been a derogatory term. But as I also say in the play, queer has always been a derogatory term,
Mm-hmm.
but now that's changing. And again, in the play, I also said, you're very right. Every sissy is not gay, and every gay person is not a sissy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my whole point. My whole point was it's okay to be a sissy. It's okay to be a sissy, even if you're a straight sissy. So you're a sissy. So you don't like football.
Mm-hmm.
So you like ballet and opera and things like that. That's okay. And that's why I called it the Sissy Chronicles, because it was about a little sissy boy growing up, being able to accept that and being able to end up being a proud gay sissy. And that was the whole thing about it. No one has ever, now they might have thought this, people might have thought about, why are you using that term? Nobody has said anything. Nobody said anything to me. Nobody even, I mean, Joe Bashar, who the director, he didn't even blink an eye when I gave him the script, and it was titled The Sissy Chronicles. And, you know, because when you put it out, I mean, the first part of the play, and I hope that some people watching this saw the streaming last September. But when the very beginning, you know, I say, and then there, I grew up with two other brothers who weren't, then I say, you know, and then there was me, the sissy. And it was like, that was me. There's no way to hide it. That was me. That was who I am. So I wasn't going to hide it in the title, because the title really ties into the entire story that is being told in that 65 minutes of the streaming that we filmed. And so I thought it was very, I mean, I changed the title, well, you know, as a playwright, you change the title several times, but I stuck with that because to me, it was very important to really come out in the very beginning and say, I am proud. I am who I am. And that's it. I don't, you know, I mean, I hate to use this because it sounds trite from La Cage aux Folles, but really I am who I am and I don't need your approval. And that's why I stuck with that title. And that's why, you know, and I use Chronicles because just to give you a little, just to give it a little teaser, there might be another play after this that goes in the same vein with this, because there's a lot that I want to get out there. And I figure the way to get it out is through theater and the play. But, you know, that's an interesting question. And it's, I'm glad you asked that, because I wanted people to realize that I didn't come to that title without a lot of thought and with a lot of soul searching before it went on, because it is but with the entire play, if you saw it, and, you know, if we do it again, I hope to do it live when all this craziness stops. But it's, you know, the whole thing is that if you see it, or if you saw it, or if you will see it, that you'll understand that it was very important to use that title and not be ashamed. I guess that's what it really is. If I would have changed the title, to me personally, inside, I would be saying, I'm ashamed of who I was and who I am. And I'm not, as you can probably tell, because I'm telling the whole world. But so it was very important for me to do that. But yeah, so yeah.
Thank you, Mark, you know, for asking that question, because the reason I wanted to ask it, because, you know, people sometimes, you know, if you're not a writer, a playwright, sometimes people don't understand that the thought sometimes that comes into, you know,
Right.
what we're writing, and the title, you know, and how important, you know, the title
Right.
can be, as far as not just for other people, but for us, you
Right.
know, and what we're trying to say. Wrote this article, and they changed the title and printed it and didn't tell me. So when I was like, wait a minute, because they changed the title, it changed the whole meaning for
Right.
me.
Right.
On what I wanted people to immediately get in their head when they saw it. And so they were okay with it. You know, I just, you know, sent a letter, you know, and said, please don't change my titles, you know, without my permission on my work, because it's important
Right.
to us. Because we put thought, we think about
Well, and
what we're saying.
and I also think the title of any play is very important, because that's let's face it, that's the first thing anybody sees about the play is the title.
It's a title.
I mean, the title, if that does, I mean, you know, I had the same experience I didn't write this play, I was performing in this play, and there was one person's play, and it was called How I Stepped Out as a Transvestite from Blunderland. and they didn't print a certain word. And it's sort of like, well, that just, the whole title says what you're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's about a transvestite, and Blunderland, of course, is all, you know, it's like, so by changing the title, you've changed the entire thing.
Yes.
And, you know, it's sort of like, so, you know, the playwright,
It's like changing Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory and
right,
just saying Willy Wonka.
right, right,
No, it's Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. You
right.
know what I'm saying? We want the chocolate factory. You see?
And it also comes down to, you know, when you're doing a play written, well, when you're doing a play, the is an actor in a play or a director in a play, it's very important that you say the words that were written. The playwright, as you know, and the playwright takes extreme care
Mm-hmm.
in writing every word that, I mean, I have gone through the plays and I have revised just a word,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
maybe 20 times, going, no, that word's not right. No, this word
Mm-hmm.
is, or you saying, I'm making it simple. You know, you say he and she. No, it should be she and he. No,
Mm-hmm.
it should be and the actors have to realize that each one of those words were chosen very carefully by the playwright. And as an actor, people will probably hate me for this, but as an actor, it's your responsibility to say the words that were written. Now, let's face it, yes. I don't know any actor that can sit there and say that every performance they did of every play, that they were book perfect, that they
Mm-hmm.
didn't mess up with. Yeah, of course you are, of course. But the fact is, your goal must be to say every word exactly as written, because
Yes.
the playwright meant that word for a particular reason at that time. It wasn't just done indiscriminately. I mean,
I'm so glad that came out. See, this is what I want with this show with Let's Talk Theater. You know what I'm saying? And because I feel the same way. You know, when I am performing and doing an acting, I learn the lines. You
yes,
know, and then like you said, and that's the joy of being live theater. Of course, every theater. That's what makes it fun. You can go see a show every day, and it's something gonna be different about it because we're human, and
right,
somebody's gonna say a wrong word. Oh, they didn't say that yesterday. You know, but
right. Your goal
my
has to,
goal is to say that line for line. And when I direct, I'm a very hard stickler, and a lot of people don't like it. Like you said, Mark, a lot of people don't like it. But I'm like, learn your lines.
right,
You know,
exactly.
learn your lines, because you're not going to come in and just ad lib, because I hate that. You're
Right.
not going to ad lib and change up, because, like you said, and people need to understand this. And I think I said something earlier about how, you know, people sometimes don't understand because they're not the writer.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? So they don't understand the work that we put in
right,
into the words that we're putting, and how important the dialogue is, especially in a play,
right,
because people are looking at characters,
right,
and you must make sure that that character is believable.
right,
And we're listening. It's not like I'm reading the book and can use my imagination on, oh, that's a Southern dialect, and that's
yeah,
this, and that's that. And of
right,
course, they're going to say blow, they ain't going to say floor, because,
yeah.
they coming from, people have to. So if you want to take somebody's dialogue and you're going to say it correct English way, you just screwed up the character, because the character don't talk like that.
Well, you know, right, and it's the same thing that everybody, you know, and this is insane, but you know, like Shakespeare wrote in the vernacular of that time. That's how people talked in that time. So when you're doing Shakespeare, you really are talking back then. I mean, that's
Yes.
you're talking. So it's your responsibility to say those words in that cadence and everything the way that he wrote it. Now, that same respect and that same goal has to be applied to modern day plays
Yes.
the same way, because when you write a character, you not, it's not only the words, it's also if there's the character has a certain cadence that they're doing.
Right. Yes.
You write that, and as an actor, it's your responsibility to do that and to say it the way that the author wanted it to be said. It's sort of like you can't just indiscriminately change change a word. A word can be so important that you have to do it. Now, there are certain times that, and there are certain times, especially if you're doing a historical play or something set especially in the 50s, there were some words that people used that people don't use now. But, this happened to me when I was doing a play and I had to say this word. And would I say this word? No, Mark Schwamberger wouldn't say this word, but the character in 1950 would say this word. And you have to be historically correct. As much as you are, as much as inside as Mark Schwamberger is going, ooh, the character isn't. So you have to do it. And I mean, and there was even in that one person show I was talking about, and people came up to me and said, well, how can you say that? And I said, but you don't understand. I had to. You have to say it because it was set in that time. Times are different. Times have changed. And you have to realize that that's not me. That's the character that's saying it. So even in those type of things, when a playwright is writing a historical piece and they use words that we realize now are offensive or, derogatory, you still have to say it and you still have to do it because you have transported yourself into that time period. You're not in the 2000s.
And you can't change history.
No,
that is there. We don't like it. No, we never want to see it again, but you can't change history.
Right. And
that's the way it was. And if you want people to not repeat things that
right.
they've done in their past, we as writers have a duty. A writer, a novelist, a poet, a songwriter, a writer. A writer who wants to deal with things that are going on in real life.
Right.
Have to have courage.
Right.
To do it.
You're right. And in some ways, and as a writer, in the Sissy Chronicles, sometimes you need to say something to make your point that things have changed and things need to change, but you have to do that in order to get your point across. And as I said before, very early, with the purpose of theater, we have to show the good and the bad. There's a lot of historical bad stuff that happened, even with the gay rights movement, even with all that.
Oh God, yes.
But it's our responsibility also, because that's part of education. History is part of education. And if you don't educate on what happened before, as they say, learn from history so you don't repeat it.
So you don't repeat it.
Right, so you don't repeat it. And I think that's very important also, to show what came before and where we are now. And so, I just think, to me, theater is one of the best ways that we show the injustices of the past and how we have progressed to where we are now, and hopefully how we will progress into the future. I mean, we did this one show. It was a ridiculous show called The Devil Boys from Beyond. But what it did was it made same-sex partnerships so normal that everything was abnormal. So it sort of turned the whole thing around. The same thing, that we did a show, Xana Don't. The same thing happened, that the kids were being bullied because they were straight instead of because they were gay. And when you look at it, it's like, that is just as absurd as bullying somebody because they're gay. than Boiling Sun. So that's what I mean. Theater needs to show it all so that we can take and retain the good that is within us, hopefully within us all.
Well, I think that's a good note to end this interview on.
Okay, thank you.
I want to thank you again for spending some time with me on Let's Talk Theater. We covered a lot of issues here today. And I would like for you to also, before we end this, to just tell people how they can get involved with the Evolution Theater Company, the website, whatever, how they can find out about any upcoming auditions. Lord, please let us have some upcoming live stage soon.
I know. Well, I'm certain that we're going to come back stronger in 2021. You can always find out. It's evolutiontheater.org. We're on Facebook. Evolution Theater is on Facebook. We're on Instagram. I have my personal page on Facebook, Mark P. Schwamberger. I have my own website, markpschwamberger.com. You can just, there's a lot of places that you can find out about it. And we like, and one thing that I want to end on, just to get, somebody once asked me in one interview that since we are, Central Ohio's LGBTQ plus theater company, is everybody in the company gay or trans? I said, no. As a matter of fact, I would say that the majority of the people, I would say 85% of the people that act on our stages are not gay or bisexual or transgender, but they are allies. They understand our message. They understand our mission. And that's what we want with Evolution Theater Company. Yeah. We want all shapes, sizes, colors, ethnicities. It doesn't matter. And we're there for everybody, but everybody who is associated with Evolution Theater Company realizes that what our mission is. So anyway, I just wanted to end with that, but please look for evolutiontheater.org for all of our information and for all of our upcoming productions in 2021, because I am sure there will be some.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that we could have you here on Julie Whitney Scott Presents Let's Talk Theater. Everybody, check out Evolution Theater Company.